So thank you for the nice introduction, and welcome to everyone. Today, as you can read from the title, I will talk about software connectors that are interoperability artists in my view. But let's see what is software, first of all. So software nowadays is everywhere. We have software in our homes, for instance, in the appliances we have in our kitchen, or he is also in modern cars that are fully equipped with devices and software on top of that. They are also, for instance, in smartwatches that are not anymore just watches, but they are also equipped with sensors and they can send and receive data. And of course, and now we can say classical, but they are pretty new as well, like tablets or smartphones. They are full of software, including the apps on top of those. But if you think, for instance, also to what are the major music companies nowadays, I don't know if you're aware about it, but they are software companies, so like iTunes, Spotify, or Pandora. And also the largest bookseller nowadays is Amazon. So as I said, software is spread and is eating the world, someone said. But how do we build software systems? So you can imagine that is like when we are building a jigsaw puzzle and putting all the pieces together. And important things here are to find exactly the pieces of software we need to put together and to let them fall in the right place. Then, if we don't, what happens if we do not find the jigsaw puzzle that perfectly falls into place? Well, we experience a software interoperability problem. Let's see what is then interoperability. There are many definitions of interoperability, and this word is used in different fields, but here we mean the ability of two or more systems or components to exchange the information and to make use of the information they exchanged. Then, what are the needed elements for a communication? We can think about a similar communication among people. So now I want you to help me to identify what are the elements that we need in order to communicate among people. Can you try to guess what we need to communicate? Language. Great. That is, of course, one element we need, the language. Some other elements? We need to hear. Yes, that's great. Yes. Yes, yes. We need some capabilities as well, like those ones. Yes, so I put here that the need of speaking. Someone is speaking, and someone is hearing, is listening. And then I also had this question, is this enough? But this clever lady here in the first line already answered, no, this is not enough, because, for instance, the language is needed also. For instance, se io adesso iniziassi a parlare in italiano in questa conversazione, probabilmente voi non capireste. So this was just an example. So if I'm speaking Italian and you are not understanding, you don't know Italian, probably this is not a communication, right? So the language is another element that we need. And even more tricky, I would say, we also need to share the interpretation of the things that we are saying. For instance, you can imagine that I say plant in English, and I have in mind a flower. So, for instance, while someone else might have in mind an industrial building. So we are using the spoken language. We are talking the same language. You are listening, and the problem is that we have different interpretations of these things. Then this was a communication among people, but this is very similar to what happens for software. So when we have different pieces of software and we want to make them communicate, it's very similar. How could we solve this problem among the people? So, well, in this case, we could consider that an interpreter could be in the middle while I'm speaking Italian, for instance, and is translating continuously between Italian and Swedish, translating and interpreting also. If you remember the problem I showed you before, so what happens if we don't find a perfect jigsaw puzzle? So for instance, we don't have the left one, that would be the perfect one, but we find the right one that is slightly similar, is very close to be the perfect one, but still is missing something. So we have an interoperability problem. And here in this case, what could be a solution? A software connector could be that red part that is missing. And here the challenging part is to identify that there is a missing part and how this is done and what should be the functionalities of this part and how to properly put together the red piece and the light blue piece in order to make it similar or like the perfect one. And this is what I do in my research, actually. So what I do is to investigate how to automatically synthesize these connectors for the interoperability. So you can think that this means that when you have several pieces of software, you need first to analyze them and try to identify what are the differences, even though they are pretty similar and in principle they could work together. But since there are these differences, they can't do it. So I try to identify what are these differences, how can we deal with those differences, how can we adjust in a way the piece of software that maybe is missing something, and put the things together in order to build the software system. And as I said to you in the beginning, I see connectors as artists, because similarly to artists that take colors and put them together properly and in an harmonic way, and they build pieces of art. At the same manner, a software connector takes pieces of software and put them properly together and allows harmonic communication and conversation, and then interoperability. And this was a very quick explanation. Thank you.
Ska vi se om vi har några frågor till Romina?